In the darkness of pain, when the body is weary and the soul is lost, a prayer rises, not a feeble plea, but a sacred flame igniting hope. This prayer holds the power to move mountains, soothe broken hearts, and heal the deepest wounds. It is medicine for the body, light for the spirit, and a hand guiding wayward souls to the shores of peace. Somewhere in the small towns of America, amidst roads blanketed with autumn leaves or quiet mornings on front porches, there are ordinary moments where prayer becomes a miracle. A middle-aged man, once the pillar of his family, now facing a chronic illness, finds strength in moments kneeling by his bed, whispering the name of God. An elderly woman carrying the weight of loss from years past feels comfort as she offers prayers in the small church at the end of the street. Prayer is not merely a ritual. It is the breath of faith, the bridge between a shattered heart and the healing hand of God. Healing prayer is not like empty words or magical chants. It is a declaration, a bold affirmation that God, the creator of heaven and earth, is still at work in this world. When a middle-aged American, perhaps grappling with hospital bills or fears about the future, lifts their head and says, "Lord, I believe you are healing me," they are not just asking, they are standing on the foundation of faith, proclaiming an eternal truth. Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who heals, is not a distant idea but a living reality present in their very room. Unlike feeble, trembling pleas born of fear, healing prayer carries the power of confidence, not confidence in oneself, but in the unchanging nature of God. It does not ask, "Can you heal me?" but declares, "You will heal, because that is who you are." The story of the woman in the Bible who touched Jesus' cloak and was instantly healed is not unfamiliar to older Americans who heard it in Sunday school as children. But that story is not just history. It is a reminder that a moment of faith, a sincere prayer, can change everything from a suffering body to an exhausted soul. In America, where the fast-paced life and pressures of finances and health can make people feel like they're walking a tightrope, prayer becomes an anchor. Middle-aged individuals often facing chronic health issues like heart disease or diabetes find in prayer a source of strength, not just to endure, but to triumph. Prayer does not promise to erase all pain instantly, but it brings a peace that surpasses understanding, a spiritual medicine no hospital can prescribe. The power of prayer lies in its ability to reach beyond the physical. It touches deeper wounds, the pains invisible to the naked eye. For older Americans who may face loneliness after their children leave home or grief from losing loved ones, prayer is the light that dispels darkness. It is the moment they feel God sitting beside them, listening to every whisper, responding with gentle comfort. An elderly woman in rural Tennessee who lost her husband after 50 years together shared that her nightly prayers by the window helped her rediscover joy even as her heart still ached. Healing in this case is not just physical restoration, but the rebirth of hope. Healing prayer does not require perfection. It does not demand polished words or a resounding voice. In modest suburban homes across America, where middle-aged and elderly people gather around the dinner table to pray before a meal, God hears the simplest words. A sincere prayer, even if it's just a few clumsy sentences, can break the chains of anxiety and open the door to peace. More importantly, healing prayer is an act of surrender, not surrender to illness, but to the love and power of God. When a middle-aged American, perhaps sitting in a hospital waiting room, lets go of control and says, "Lord, I entrust everything to you," they are opening their heart to a miracle. It is the moment when fear loses its power and faith begins to speak. Prayer in that moment becomes a sacred dance where the human soul intertwines with the heart of God, where wounds begin to heal in ways only God knows. The power of prayer does not always lie in bringing instant miracles. Sometimes it is a gentle breeze blowing through the soul, carrying the patience to wait. Sometimes it is a guiding light, helping an elderly person in the Midwest navigate the dark days of illness. But in whatever form it comes, prayer is always an invitation to believe that God is there right beside them with a hand ready to lift them up. It is a reminder that in this uncertain world, there is one unchanging truth: God is the healer and He never turns away. From small towns in Texas to bustling cities like Chicago, prayer has been and continues to transform lives. It is a flame that never dies, a river carrying hope to parched souls. And when a middle-aged or elderly American kneels, closes their eyes, and lets their prayer rise, they are joining a sacred journey, a journey where every step is guided by God's love, every moment an opportunity for healing. When prayer rises like a flame in the dark night, it does not burn alone. At the heart of prayer lies a mystical power, an invisible wind blowing through the parched fields of the soul, bringing life. That power is faith, not a fleeting emotion, but an unshakable mountain, an endless river guiding American souls from the bustling streets of Atlanta to the windswept plains of Nebraska to the healing hand of God. Faith is not just belief. It is the heartbeat of certainty, the light glimmering in darkness, the whisper from heaven that Jehovah Rapha is still at work even when the eyes cannot see. Faith, in its mystical essence, is not a resounding shout or fervent tears. It is a steadfast stance where the soul stands firm like an ancient oak in a Minnesota winter storm. A middle-aged man, perhaps sitting in the dim light of an Ohio home facing a cancer diagnosis, does not need to shout to prove his faith. In the moment, he closes his eyes, clutches a worn Bible, and whispers, "Lord, you are the healer." He is standing on a sacred foundation where the impossible becomes possible. His faith is not based on what doctors say or the numbers on medical reports. It is rooted in an eternal truth: God who parted the Red Sea is still listening. The story of John, a 62-year-old veteran in suburban Dallas, is a testament to the mystical power of faith. After years battling post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD), John felt his soul was a scorched field where memories of war burned relentlessly. Therapy and medication helped only so much, but on an October night, as moonlight streamed through his window, John knelt by his bed. With no eloquent words or elaborate rituals, he simply said, "Lord, I can't see the way, but I trust you do." That night, John felt a strange stillness, as if an invisible hand was soothing the wounds in his soul. Gradually, his nightmares lessened, and he began to find joy in small things: a morning coffee with his wife, a smile from his grandchild. Doctors called it psychological progress, but John knew it was the miracle of faith awakened by prayer. Faith, in its mystical nature, does not require proof before acting. It is the courage to walk on water even as the storm rages. For older Americans who often carry the burdens of age, from chronic joint pain to the sorrow of losing friends, faith becomes the lamp lighting their path. It does not promise to erase all pain, but it gives them the strength to rise to believe that each day is a chance for healing. The mystery of faith lies in its ability to transform reality. When a 58-year-old woman in rural Georgia named Martha learned her son was in a severe car accident, she did not rush to the hospital in panic. Instead, she sat in her old armchair in the living room, opened her Bible to Psalm 23, and began to pray. Her prayer was not a desperate plea, but a declaration: "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." In that moment, Martha felt an invisible light, as if heaven was responding. When she reached the hospital, doctors were astonished to report her son had survived the critical stage, despite earlier grim expectations. Martha did not call it a coincidence. She called it the power of faith, a sacred flame, lighting the path to healing. Faith is not the absence of doubt. On the contrary, it is the choice to trust despite doubt, to walk forward though the path is unclear. For many middle-aged Americans grappling with big questions, why am I still in pain? Why hasn't healing come? Faith is the light shimmering in the darkness. It reminds them that doubt is not the enemy, but a companion pushing them closer to God. In quiet moments, when they kneel and let their doubts fall into God's hands, they feel His presence not as thunder, but as a gentle breeze whispering that everything is part of His plan. The power of faith lies in its ability to nurture patience. In a modern world where everything is expected instantly, faith teaches that healing is a journey sometimes stretching through the long winters of life. For older Americans who may have waited months or even years for results from surgeries or therapies, faith is the wind lifting them through weary days. It is the promise that whether healing comes like lightning or a gradual dawn, God is never late. Faith is also the bridge between humanity and heaven, where God's power flows like a river of life. In small Appalachian churches where communities gather to pray for a sick member, their faith is not just words. It is a collective power, a mystical light connecting broken hearts to the healing hand of God. The biblical story of the Roman centurion who asked Jesus to speak a single word to heal his servant echoes in these prayer gatherings. Their faith is not based on what they see, but on what they believe that one word from God can make illness vanish and souls whole. In its mystery, faith is not just the flame igniting prayer. It is the wind lifting the soul's wings, the light guiding through dark valleys. For middle-aged and older Americans, faith is a companion, the strength to rise each day though the body aches or the heart is heavy. It is a reminder that in this turbulent world, there is one unshakable truth. God knows their name, sees their pain, and is weaving a story of healing, though the eyes may not yet see. When they hold fast to faith, they are not just grasping hope. They are holding the very hand of God, leading them through darkness to eternal light. From the flame of prayer and the mystical light of faith, a gentle melody begins to echo like the wind weaving through the ancient trees of a distant forest. Healing is not a bolt of lightning tearing through the darkness, but a sacred symphony where each note is a beat of the body, spirit, emotions, and soul intertwined in the tender hands of Jehovah Rapha. In America's small towns, from the endless cornfields of Iowa to the quiet streets of Vermont, the journey of healing unfolds like an ancient tale where broken souls find light and deep wounds are soothed by eternal love. Long ago, in tales whispered by grandmothers under the glow of firelight, there was a weary traveler who wandered through a shadowed valley carrying a satchel heavy with broken dreams. Each step he took echoed with pain, yet he clung to a single shimmering thread, a promise that a hidden spring guarded by an unseen keeper could restore all that was lost. With every faltering step, the valley seemed to whisper back, urging him to trust the unseen. For many Americans in their middle and later years, life mirrors that traveler's journey. The weight of chronic illness, the ache of loneliness, or the scars of loss can feel like stones in a satchel, yet the promise of healing woven into the fabric of their faith beckons like that ancient spring shimmering just beyond the horizon. Healing in its mystical nature is not just the restoration of the body. It is a slow dance where each step is a moment of rebirth. An elderly woman in suburban Philadelphia named Eleanor once faced arthritis that made every movement a challenge. Medications offered only slight relief, but in quiet mornings, as she sat by the window with a cup of tea, she began to pray. Not with desperate pleas, but with a gentle surrender, as if placing her pain into an invisible river. Gradually, Eleanor realized that though her limbs remained stiff, her soul grew lighter. She began to smile at the flowers in her garden, sing old hymns, and feel a wondrous peace, as if God was sitting beside her, whispering that she was not alone. Doctors called it psychological improvement, but Eleanor knew it was a miracle, a note in her symphony of healing. This journey of restoration echoes another old tale where a wounded bird, its wings torn by a storm, fell into a quiet glade. A gentle stream flowing from an unseen source bathed its feathers, and though the bird could not yet fly, it sang a song so beautiful that the forest itself seemed to listen. For many middle-aged Americans, healing often begins not with the mending of flesh, but with the song of the spirit. When they lift their voices in prayer, they are not merely asking for relief. They are weaving their pain into a tapestry of hope, guided by a presence that feels as close as a heartbeat. Emotional healing is a deeper facet, like moonlight glimmering on a still lake, illuminating the hidden corners of the soul. A 55-year-old man in Kansas City named Robert carried the pain of a divorce from years ago. The bitterness was like a thorn piercing him whenever he thought of the past. But during a prayer service at his local church, as light from stained glass windows fell on his face, Robert felt a strange urging. He began to pray for his ex-wife, not to change her, but to release the burden in his heart. That simple, sincere prayer was like a cool stream washing away old wounds. Robert heard no angelic voices, but he felt a sacred stillness, as if God was placing a hand on his shoulder, guiding him through a new door. Forgiveness, he realized, was a form of healing, a gift not just for others, but for his own soul. The heart of healing in its most mystical form is the renewal of the soul's covenant with its creator. Like the ancient tale of a lost child who, guided by a single star, found her way home through a labyrinth of shadows, this spiritual restoration is the deepest note in the symphony of healing. For older Americans who may feel the weight of years pressing upon them, this reconnection with God is a rebirth. In quiet moments of prayer, they sense a presence that transcends time, a whisper from eternity that they are seen, known, and loved. This is not merely comfort. It is a transformation, as if the soul once shrouded in fog steps into a meadow bathed in light. The journey of healing is not always as dazzling as lightning. Sometimes it is a gentle breeze sweeping through the fields of the soul, carrying the scent of hope. For older Americans facing the darkness of illness or the finitude of life, prayer becomes a mystical lamp. It does not promise to erase all pain, but it offers a precious gift, a peace that surpasses understanding, like a sacred stream nourishing the parched lands of the soul. The mystery of healing lies in how it intertwines suffering and joy like ancient tales that always have darkness before dawn. A 70-year-old woman in Maine named Clara lost her only son in an accident years ago. The pain was like a storm that never ceased, but Clara found solace in prayers by the seaside where the waves pulsed like God's heartbeat. In one moment, as the sunset painted the water gold, she felt her son was not truly gone, as if God was holding him in a safe place beyond time's reach. Clara's healing was not the absence of pain, but the ability to carry it with an open heart where joy and sorrow coexist like notes in a hymn. Healing in all its mystery is an invitation to live fully. It reminds middle-aged and older Americans that they are not defined by illness, loss, or past scars. Like the traveler in the ancient tale who found the hidden spring, they are invited to drink from the living water, prayer, faith, and God's love. Each prayer is a step on that journey, each moment of pain an opportunity to grow. And in this sacred symphony, they are never alone. God the healer walks beside them, guiding them through shadowed valleys to a field of light where every wound is healed and every soul finds peace. From the flame of prayer, the light of faith, and the symphony of healing, a gentle circle begins to form like hands clasped in the glow of an autumn evening in America. The praying community is not just a gathering of souls, it is a sacred network where every whisper, every tear, every smile becomes a golden thread, weaving a tapestry of hope that lifts those stumbling on the path to healing. In small churches in Mississippi, family gatherings in Colorado, or quiet street corners in Oregon, the praying community is where God steps in as close as a breath, guiding lost souls to safe shores. It's as if you're sitting on an old wooden pew in a small church, the scent of pine-lingering sunlight streaming through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the floor. Beside you are familiar faces, the neighbor who lost his wife after 40 years, the friend who battled a serious illness, or the retired teacher carrying a nameless sorrow. As everyone bows their heads, an invisible wind seems to sweep through, carrying interwoven prayers like streams merging into a mighty river. That's the moment you realize you are not alone. God is here not just in your heart, but in the hearts of the entire community, connecting everyone with an unbreakable sacred bond. In a small Texas town, a man named Samuel, 67, once thought he would die alone after being diagnosed with lung disease. Long days in the hospital felt like being trapped in a windowless room. But one evening, a prayer group from his local church visited. They brought no grandiose promises, only sat around his bed, singing old hymns and praying. Samuel recalls feeling a strange warmth, as if an invisible flame was warming his chest. Their simple, heartfelt prayers were like birds soaring to heaven, carrying his pain to God's throne. Gradually, Samuel felt not only physical relief, but a liberated soul. He called it the miracle of community, not because his illness vanished completely, but because he found a reason to live, to love, and to believe. The praying community is where wounds are shared, where burdens are lifted. When a middle-aged woman in Wisconsin named Grace learned her youngest daughter was battling severe depression, she felt helpless. Sleepless nights made Grace feel like she was drowning in a bottomless ocean. But during a prayer group meeting at home, as close friends placed hands on her shoulders and prayed, Grace felt a miraculous peace, as if God was standing in the room drying her tears. The community's prayers were not just words. They were a living force, like waves crashing on the shore, washing away fear and bringing hope. Grace's daughter, though still on her recovery journey, began to smile again, and Grace believes those prayers reached heaven, opening a new door for both mother and daughter. Like an ancient tale of weavers in a distant village, each bringing a fragile thread, but together creating a radiant cloak to shelter the community through a harsh winter, the praying community is the same. Every prayer, however small, is a golden thread contributing to a tapestry of healing. In a small Detroit neighborhood, elderly people gather weekly, praying not just for themselves, but for strangers, a hospital patient, a family displaced by a storm, or a lost soul in darkness. They believe their prayers, like butterflies flying far, will reach those in need, carrying God's light. In that belief, they heal not only others but themselves, as if each prayer is a heartbeat reviving hidden corners of their souls. The praying community is where silent miracles happen. Not always dramatic moments, like illnesses vanishing or pain disappearing. Sometimes it's the presence of a friend, a hand clasp, a hymn rising in the stillness. In a coastal North Carolina town, a group of elderly women hold a prayer circle each month, sharing stories of loss, illness, and joy. One of them, Dorothy, once thought she'd never overcome the pain of losing her son. But in those gatherings, as her sisters prayed, Dorothy felt a sacred connection, as if her son was smiling from afar, held by God. Dorothy's healing came through shared tears, interwoven prayers, and the community's love, like a warm breeze blowing through her cold days. In this sacred network, everyone is part of the miracle. When you bow your head in a small Alabama church or hold hands with family in a Montana living room, you are part of something greater than yourself. Your prayer, however simple, is a precious stone, building a temple of hope. And God the healer stands among that community, hearing every heartbeat, seeing every tear, and weaving a story of healing where every soul is uplifted. The praying community is not just where you find strength. It is where you become strength, a light for others, the hand of God touching broken hearts. Patience in waiting is not weak resignation, but the victorious banner of unshakable faith raised high amidst life's storms. In small Alabama churches, warm Michigan kitchens, or misty Montana trails, faithful souls kneel, offering praises to God, believing that He who raised Lazarus from the dead is weaving miracles of healing, though time may stretch like a river flowing through endless fields. With fierce faith, they declare God is never late, and every moment of waiting is a sacred promise etched in His unchanging love. Patience is the wind lifting the soul's eagle wings, the light from a heavenly lighthouse guiding through the darkest nights. A 63-year-old woman in rural Kentucky named Miriam once thought her heart disease would be her end. Long months in the hospital with chest pain like a blade made her feel as if she stood on a precipice. But Miriam refused to let fear take hold. Each morning she opened her Bible to Psalm 27:14. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage, and offered prayers of praise. She did not ask for instant healing, but glorified God as the one who holds every moment. During the days awaiting surgery, Miriam felt a sacred presence, as if God stood by her bed, his gentle eyes promising he was at work. When the surgery succeeded, Miriam was not surprised. She knew each day of waiting was a precious gem forged by God to reveal her unshakable faith. Waiting in devotion to God is not delay, but a journey of sanctification. Every moment of pain, every tear is a note in a song praising Jehovah Rapha's power. In a small Oklahoma town, a 58-year-old man named Thomas faced the pain of losing his wife after 30 years together. Their once lively home fell silent, but Thomas refused to let darkness consume him. Each night he knelt by his wife's framed photo, praying not to erase the pain, but to praise God who promised we will meet again in his kingdom. In the stillness, Thomas felt an invisible light, like a candle of resurrection illuminating his soul. Gradually he found joy in small things, a warm morning, a hymn on the radio. Thomas's waiting for healing was not about erasing pain, but trusting God to transform it into a radiant cross drawing him closer to him. Like the story of ancient travelers in a desert trudging through scorching sands carrying faith that an oasis awaited, they pressed on despite weary feet, hearing the sound of water from an eternal spring where the Almighty waited. For middle-aged and older Americans, patience is a dedication, a declaration that God, who made water flow from a rock, is preparing a blessing beyond what eyes can see. When a 70-year-old woman in Florida named Abigail faced insomnia from health-related anxiety, she refused to let darkness prevail. Standing by her window, gazing at twinkling stars, she praised God who hung the stars in the sky. In those long nights, Abigail felt an invisible hand like God's wiping away her worries. Though sleep did not return immediately, she found rest in her soul as if God was singing her a heavenly lullaby. Patience in waiting is a tribute to God's unchanging power. It is the fierce belief that every trial is a furnace where faith is refined, shining like gold. In a small Idaho community, elderly people gather weekly to pray for those awaiting healing, a friend battling illness, a family overcoming loss. They do not ask, "Why hasn't God acted?" but praise Him for His promise. "I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace, not disaster." In those prayers, they feel a sacred strength, as if angels stand beside them singing a song of triumph. Waiting for them is a holy ritual where every heartbeat is praise, every breath a declaration that Jehovah Rapha never breaks His word. In this journey of unshakable faith, patience is the banner raised high, the light that never fades. It reminds American souls from Chicago's bustling streets to Kansas's windswept fields that God sees every pain, hears every prayer, and is weaving a masterpiece of healing. Though the road is long, though darkness lingers, God the healer walks beside them, His love fierce as the ocean, guiding them through every trial to a hill of light where every promise is fulfilled. With unshakable faith, they stand firm, praising Him, awaiting His miracle, knowing Jehovah Rapha is faithful, and He will come at the right time in the right way with love that never fails. Like a gentle river flowing through America's windswept fields, from Ohio's small streets to California's shimmering coasts, the journey of healing prayer has guided us through flames of faith, symphonies of restoration, sacred networks of community, and holy paths of patience. In the soft dawn, as the sun rises over Georgia's church steeples or Kansas's wheat fields, a quiet truth echoes Jehovah Rapha. the healer has never been far. Every prayer, every moment of faith, every thread of hope weaves a radiant tapestry where broken souls find light and every wound is soothed by His eternal love. This journey began with prayer, not a weak plea, but a blazing flame illuminating the dark corners of pain and despair. In humble homes where middle-aged and elderly people kneel by beds or hold hands around dinner tables, prayer becomes the bridge linking their hearts to heaven. It teaches that healing is not just a wish, but a bold declaration that God who parted the Red Sea is listening, acting in ways only He understands. From that flame, faith blazes like a guiding star, eternal and radiant. It is the strength uplifting weary souls from a man battling illness in Texas to a woman rediscovering joy after loss in Maine. Faith reminds that even when doubt knocks, God remains, the lighthouse illuminating the path, guiding each step through darkness to His light. Healing, like a gentle symphony, resounds not only in the body, but in the spirit and soul. It is peace amidst pain, a smile through tears, a door opening when forgiveness replaces bitterness. In quiet Minnesota mornings, as sunlight streams through windows, or silent Carolina nights by the sea, older Americans realize healing is not always an instant miracle. Sometimes it is a soft breeze carrying God's presence, soothing the deepest wounds. The praying community, like hands clasped in twilight, has become where hope blooms. From Mississippi's small churches to Colorado's family gatherings, interwoven prayers create a sacred tapestry uplifting those who falter. The community teaches that no one walks alone, that every shared tear, every spoken prayer is a precious gem, building a temple of love and healing. And patience, like a banner raised amidst the storm, is a song praising God's unchanging power. In months of waiting, as illness lingers or pain seems endless, faithful souls in Idaho or Florida learn to stand firm, believing each trial is a furnace, refining faith, preparing them for the blessing God promised. The lesson from this journey is a gentle whisper from heaven. Healing is not a destination, but a holy path where each step is a chance to draw nearer to God. It teaches that pain is not the end, but a door to rebirth. It reminds that faith, though small as a mustard seed, can move mountains, that community is strength, and that patience is a song praising Jehovah Rapha's endless love. Now, as morning sunlight streams through windows in small towns across America, a call rises, gentle but urgent. Walk the path of prayer with an open heart and unshakable faith. Praise God not only when miracles come, but in the waiting days when darkness lingers. Hold hands with those beside you in church, in family, or in life's quiet moments, and together weave a tapestry of hope. Trust that God the healer stands beside you, His love vast as the ocean, guiding you through every valley to a field of light where every wound is healed and every soul finds peace. Begin today with a simple prayer and let your healing journey become a song praising God, echoing forever.